Hey everyone, I am the Chosen One Legend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
But also today joined by a very special guest, a good friend of ours, the extremely talented actress and singer, and as you may recognise, the voice behind Pyra and Mythra in Xenoblade 2, it's Skye Bennett. Hey Skye!
Hey,
Hi, how are you
how's it
doing
going?
today?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just working. As I said, I'm planning a music video shoot on the weekend, so I'm organising catering and travel and contracts, and obviously putting something together in the times of COVID brings its own struggles. So buying a shitload of sanitizer and masks and
Oh yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Hard at work then, hard at
just
work.
yeah, making sure everything's proper.
That's good.
How
Well,
about you guys? How are you?
yeah,
Yeah,
been
not
been
bad.
pretty chill. Usual sort of. I can't say I'm doing as much hard work as you. I've just been playing video games, but
That sounds great.
still good times, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to do this with us. So thank you so much for coming along, Sky.
Oh, that's all right. It's always lovely chatting to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, for people who don't know, the whole reason Kai and I ended up making this podcast is because we met through your stream, Sky, and the community that spawned from that. So
Yeah.
we literally would
Yeah.
not be doing this without you. It's almost poetic, I
Ah,
guess, that we have
oh,
you on
that's
here.
lovely. Oh, I love that.
But we have a good show ahead, hopefully. We've got a few different topics, ranging from your time with gaming, your voice acting work, and your Twitch stream. So if you two are both ready, we'll get on with the show.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Right, so before we get into more of the voice acting side of things, the main reason we started this podcast is we just like talking about gaming. So to talk a bit more about your time with gaming as a fan, Sky, how exactly did you get into gaming in the first place? Was there any particular childhood games or consoles that really stuck with you as a kid?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I've always loved gaming just as a fan. I think the first proper console I had, I mean, I didn't really get into it as a tiny kid. I mean, I have memories of watching my big sister playing the early Final Fantasies
Right.
and that sort of thing. But my first console was a PS2, and that was a gift from a family friend, and it was like the best day of my life, and I still remember it so clearly in my head because I spent ages and ages and ages and ages begging my parents for a games console. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to play video games because I would play it, at friends' houses and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't get my own until I was maybe 8 or 9. Yeah, I would have been about that, maybe a bit younger. And yeah, he came over and he had like a tower of games because I guess he was getting a new
Wow.
console, and he had a huge amount of games, many of which I don't really remember because they
Yeah.
were all right, but they weren't great. But what I loved the most was he had Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 3, I think,
Right.
in this pile of games, and those were probably the first two games that really had me hooked into the world of gaming. I loved Lara Croft,
Nice.
That's
and outside of that, I guess I was more of a casual. I mean, I've always been into The Sims,
yeah.
but
Right.
I was always kind of casual until I started playing Mass Effect at the recommendation of a friend around college time. So I was like 16 or 17 or something.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. So I got really into gaming after playing Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed as well.
Nice.
And yeah, that's kind of it, I guess.
That's
enough.
yeah, that's really cool. I mean, Tomb Raider was actually probably the first series I played also. We're talking
Oh, really?
we're talking a very young kid, and all I did was run
Yeah.
around the mansion. If you remember the little mansion
Yes,
you could explore, that is that was basically all I did. But it was fun.
Yeah. It
That's
took
a-
me ages to sort of muster up the courage to do the actual mission because
Yeah.
I was really afraid of the wolves at the beginning of the
Right.
story mode, whatever it was. So yeah, in the end, I just sort of swam around in the pool and locked the butler in the fridge and
Of course, that guy used to
jumped through
terrify
the
me.
gym. Yeah.
Oh man. So, following on from that, even to this day, do you have like a favourite series that's really stuck with you?
Probably Assassin's Creed. Well, yeah, probably Assassin's Creed or Mass Effect. Mind you, I suppose a game series that like was with me even before consoles was The Sims, because I remember playing it. It was like, because my mum is a graphic designer and always has been since, before I was born. She's always worked with Macs. So when I was a kid, Macs were not, I mean, even still, Macs aren't really the computer for games.
Yeah.
But there were a few, like, there was another great game, I think it might have been 2002 or 2003, called Ghostmaster, which is actually on Steam, and to my delight, it was, like, really cheap. So I bought it, and I played it, and it was a big shot of nostalgia. But The Sims was one of these games that, one of the few games that was available for Mac, so I remember playing that when I was really, really young.
Nice.
And having a ball with that. So The Sims is probably the first game that's really like stuck with me.
Yeah, it's a very long-term series. It's got a lot of reputation,
Oh yeah, I mean it's sort of past its prime, I think.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't play much of The Sims after I got traumatized when all of my family drowned in the pool because I didn't put a ladder in there. But
Oh god.
I still respect the series, even if I don't think I can go back after that childhood trauma. It's great to see it still going,
Yeah.
though.
It is heavy. It's heavy business.
Seems for you, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So we've heard you talk a little bit in the past, Skye, that you've had an interest in like actual game development. So how did that idea come about, and is there anything in particular there that you're certainly like passionate about?
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to make my own video game. It's like on my bucket list. I really, really want to write a game. And the direction that the industry is going in, I'm super excited about the prospect of creating a sort of immersive experience that's also quite cinematic. I mean, you see it in a lot of games now. Like, two things that I adore about games are open world gameplay and the sort of when a game is quite theatrical or cinematic or whatever, like.
Right.
And usually with open world games, they sort of fall a bit short sometimes in terms of script, not all the time, but sometimes, and they're more combat driven, or you're going around collecting things or whatever.
Yeah.
At least in my experience.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of games I haven't played that tick all the boxes. But so yeah, I'm super into the idea of creating it, because I had an idea for a TV show that I now am more excited by the prospect of putting it in a game narrative. But yeah, I guess the first step into sort of game development was voice acting.
Right. Yeah.
But that was kind of an accident, because I was acting before I was voice acting. And voice acting for video games was always something that intrigued me, but I never really went out of my way to pursue it.
Right.
It just kind of happened. And yeah, so it was a really happy accident, because I've had some of the best fun I've had while working on games and gaming.
Right.
Yeah, you've actually segued it perfectly, Skye, because our next question is moving on to the voice acting side of things. How exactly was it you transitioned from doing film work and TV work as a kid and as a young adult into doing some voice acting work? How did that accidentally come about?
So when I was a kid, my first dream was to become a professional figure skater.
Yeah.
But I quickly discovered that you need a hell of a lot more motivation and determination and commitment to skating than I had in order to become that massively successful in the field. So the thing that I really loved about it was the performance aspect of it, the dancing, the sort of acting like a fool in front of people and making people happy. Like, that's what I really loved about it. And there was a mother there who was a mother of one of the other skaters, and she was close friends, I believe, with my ex-agent. And this woman, she ran a stage school, like a Saturday stage school for kids. And so I auditioned for the school, and the school also had an agency attached. And I got into the school and the agency and just started auditioning. And I just started consistently working as an actor. Well, I still work as an actor, and I love it. And it was, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, actually longer than that now, maybe even 6 years ago, that I met my voice agent.
Right.
But what year is it? It's 2021.
No one's sure anymore at this point, let's be honest. After 2020.
Yeah, I think I signed up to my agency in like 2016 or 2017. Anyway, I got my first video game role, which was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I didn't expect it to be the success that it was. Not because it wasn't a fantastic game or anything like that, but just because I vastly underestimated the fan base and the reach that it had. Just because Nintendo isn't, it was never really the universe that I spent my time in as a gamer, so
Right.
I just underestimated the project. So to say it's changed my life is an understatement. Like, my life is completely different since that game.
Yeah.
And for the better. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. It was literally just an audition.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely glad for it as well, of course.
Yeah.
Did some great jobs there. But in doing voice acting, how did you find it compared to the more sort of normal film acting that you were used to? Was there anything particularly challenging about it, or different, or even anything you preferred about it?
Oh yeah, it was completely different, and it came with its own unique challenges, and unique to the game itself, because I've done games which were kind of like way more of a breeze than Xenoblade was. Like Xenoblade being a Japanese game, we had to work on syncing to animation that was already obviously animated to Japanese dialogue.
Yeah.
So I've talked about this before about, you know, the sort of sentence structure of the Japanese sentence structure being so massively different from English that you really have to try and wiggle through the dialogue in a way that's still natural but fits the animation. So that was a unique challenge, and sort of playing opposite myself is something I've never done before.
Yeah.
Being Pyra and Mythra, which was cool, and also playing opposite other voices, because I was the only person in the booth. And there were people who had already recorded their dialogue. Like, I think at the time that I recorded my dialogue, Rex's dialogue was all done, or at least most of his dialogue was all done.
Right.
So any scene that I had with Rex, I could play opposite his dialogue. But but there were some people like who I don't think Tora's dialogue wasn't recorded, so I had to play opposite the director's example of Tora's dialogue, which was quite funny.
Oh, wow.
This is sort of breaching up on a later question, but I have to ask now.
Yeah.
How close was the director's version of Tora to the final product? Was it pretty good?
It's pretty close, to be fair. He did a really good job.
That's cool.
Meh. That's all they say.
Yeah.
All right. So, are there any like particular series or even any like type of character that you'd really like to voice one day?
Ooh. I mean, Lara Croft for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I think any actress with brown hair and brown eyes dreams about one day playing the physical version of Lara Croft, but even like in gaming, she'd definitely be at the top of my list. I mean, it would be great to be in, obviously, Assassin's Creed. I even think that they record those games in the UK, so it's not even a complete impossibility.
There's always a chance, though.
Yeah, that would be great. More motion capture. I actually have a motion capture job to do next month, which I'm super psyched about. I've never done it before, and ever since I watched, there was a movie called Monster House. Have you ever seen it?
Oh yes, that's such a good film.
I never watched it, but I remember
It's an
seeing
old
it
film
advertised.
now. Yeah. Yeah, well, it came out a long time ago, and I was a kid, and I remember thinking, wow, the animation of this movie is fantastic. And I would have gone on YouTube, I guess, or maybe I had a DVD or something. I found the behind-the-scenes footage of the movie, and I saw everybody in their sort of motion capture gear, with all the dots around on their face and their body, and thinking how crazy and cool it looked. And ever since I watched that film, I've wanted to do motion capture, so I'm super excited to do it next month. But I guess more of that would be nice. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. I guess we can move on to our next topic then, and we've got to focus on it at some point or another. So let's talk about Xenoblade 2 a bit. So after not being too familiar with Xenoblade, I know you talked a little bit about this earlier. At what point did you realise just how big this role would be for you?
Well, I was speaking to my boyfriend's brother about it, actually, saying, oh, I got a job the other day. It's for a video game. I was like, oh, that's cool, because he's into gaming. And
Right.
so he seemed like the wise sage to approach about it. And I was like, yeah, it's for a franchise called Xenoblade Chronicles. And his eyes just got really wide, and he was like, whoa, really? I was like, yeah. He was like, that's a big franchise. And he told me all about how it was only in Japan, and a bunch of people sort of campaigned that it come over to America or the UK, and he told me that whole story. It was fascinating and exciting.
Yeah, Project Rainfall was a great story to hear about. Yeah,
Yeah, out of curiosity, actually, did you watch any of the trailers that came out for the game, or was that something you just sort of didn't want to see?
What, any of the trailers of Xenoblade 2?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, I watched them when they came out.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Did you did you read any of like the fan reactions to it, or was that sort of something you didn't look too much into?
I read a couple, but I learned early on that you probably shouldn't read comments.
True.
Yeah. That's gamers can be a certain type of fan sometimes, so that is probably
They
a
got a
wise
lot of
decision.
opinions.
Especially with English dubs, they're very too critical. Too critical.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah. So I did read a couple, but not too many. I was just kind of soaking up the good vibes.
Yeah, definitely. And so in going back to when you were voicing the game itself, of course, as you mentioned before, you voiced two characters, Pyra and Mythra, and not only did you have to play off yourself for it, they're also a very unique situation where Pyra and Mythra are very distinct characters, but also kind of the same person. So how did you go about giving them a voice for this? How did you try and make them distinct, yet also similar?
I guess I just tried to, I guess I kind of wanted them to not sound too, well, it sounds like an obvious thing, but not too similar to each other.
Yeah,
Though
fair
I'm
enough.
one person, so my options were a little bit limited to my own voice. But yeah, I guess I just kind of more wanted to, rather than change the pitch too much, even though I did pitch Mythra's voice down a bit and pitch Pyra's voice up a bit, I mostly focused on intonation and the kind of people they are. So like with Pyra being quite gentle and sweet, to Mythra being quite abrasive and a little bit too harsh sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
I just tried applying that, and I guess I hoped that would be enough.
Yeah, I mean,
someone can sound completely different if they're pissed off versus if they're saying how much they love you.
I would say that definitely, came through in the game. I remember that very first scene where Mythra awakens, and I was thinking to myself, like, is this the same voice actress? It sounds similar, but distinct. So it sort of which is exactly how it was meant to sound. You know, as Rex was like, "Is this Pyra? Is this not Pyra?" So it really it did fit it perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you think so.
And also, I mean, you had a later scene in particular. If you remember the scene when Rex is sort of having this sort of vision, and Pyra starts acting a bit like Mythra, and Mythra starts acting a bit like Pyra. And even then, you know, it's still... I can imagine that must have been difficult, because you had to keep the same character whilst being like the other character.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I recently did a tape for a job where... in the scene, I was playing an American, but she was doing a bad British impersonation.
Right.
So it was being somebody who sounds like me, doing an American accent, doing a fake British accent.
Oh, man.
Trying to be American at the same time. And it was a bit like that with doing that scene with Pyra and Mythra, trying to keep it... I guess I just kind of did it like they were mimicking each other, rather than, you know, showing different, like, genuine sides of each other. I thought, well, if it's kind of said in a mockery, whatever kind of way, then it will sound like the characters pretending to be each other, rather than the characters exposing this other side of them, because the scene itself was trippy anyway, so I figured it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual side of these characters that's coming out. It can sound weird and not realistic.
It was a very unsettling scene in that sort of way, so it definitely added to that.
Oh, good.
But of course, you got to about a year later voice Mythra again when they did Torna, the Golden Country, the DLC prequel story. And of course, what was it like revisiting the character of Mythra in a slightly different time for her? Like, did you approach her at all differently based on either direction you were given or your own what you learned voicing the character?
Well, I think there was a certain secrecy and trauma to Pyra that obviously was a product of what happened to Mythra.
Right.
So I wanted this Mythra to still be obviously, you know, I still wanted her to have the fire that people love about her, but I guess I wanted her to seem kind of younger and not so disillusioned. Just kind of, I don't know, just having experienced less, I suppose. Yeah, so I guess my approach to Mythra in the Golden Country was just somebody who's experienced less and is younger.
I feel like that was definitely carried across well as well. Like, you could see in Torna that Mythra clearly didn't, you know, she was still learning about how to control her own power, and everyone kind of teasing her about how she wasn't as experienced. That definitely shone through in the DLC.
Poor Mythra getting called a simpleton all the time in that DLC. Just has a rough time of it.
Well, if she acted less like a simpleton, she wouldn't be called one.
That's very true. You make a fair point.
All right.
And I think that definitely... Oh, sorry, Guy, but I think that definitely came through with both Mythra and Malos. I think it was some of my favourite characterizations of both of them in Torna, was seeing them both newly awakened, so then they haven't been burdened by later things that are to come. So it definitely creates a very different character, and it was cool to see you exploring that with your vocal range. So yeah, it was really fun.
Thank you.
Okay, here's a bit of a more fun question. So, if you were a blade, not Pyra or Mythra, just you yourself, were a blade in Xenoblade, what would your element be, and who do you want to be your driver?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, whenever someone's been like, oh, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? I've always loved the idea of being able to breathe underwater and, like, cope with the water pressure. Like, I've always loved like, I'm very aware that we've explored more of space than we have our oceans. And it freaks me out. So I'd love to be able to go absolutely anywhere in the ocean without any issue, and swim really fast as well, because then I could go to, like, every country and not have to pay for a plane ticket.
That's true.
So we're writing you off as a water blade. Okay.
Yeah, I reckon I'd be a water blade. And I guess my driver. I mean, who do I like spending a lot of time with? My boyfriend, I guess.
Okay.
I don't
Sam
know.
is your driver.
Well,
That would be dangerous.
maybe that's not a great idea. I don't know. Who would I?
I guess if we to narrow it down for you, if you had to pick a in-game character as a driver, like Rex, Morag,
okay.
Vandam, any of those.
Ooh.
Tora.
Tora?
I think Morag. Yeah, she's cool, and I think, yeah, Morag.
She is pretty badass, and they do say that you see in a blade what characteristics a driver has. So I suppose that's going to be shining through there as well for you.
She strikes me as the kind of woman who knows how to handle a blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that's accurate.
Absolutely.
Oh man. All right, let's go on to our fourth topic then, which is going to be talking a little bit about Twitch. So just kind of your streaming career on there, because you've played, of course, what is it, Xenoblade 2, Fire Emblem Three Houses, and now you've done part of Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition. So
Yeah.
what led to you streaming on Twitch? What was the origin of that?
That was actually my friend, who you know, Alejandro, who...
Yes.
Big Alejandro, love him.
Yeah,
All the
big
way.
man Alejandro, god tier friend. I mean, to be fair, Sam was the first person to mention streaming to me, and I was like, maybe. But it didn't really seem... Again, I guess I underestimated people's interest in it. I didn't think anyone would care if I streamed the game.
Right.
Because I wasn't really savvy with Twitch, and I only really watch my friends' streams. I don't actively sit and watch Twitch, even though I probably should. But I didn't really understand it, so I didn't really seriously consider it until Alejandro actually sat me down and talked me through it, and and I was like, yeah, but will anyone really care if I stream the game? And he was like, yeah, I think people would. So I thought, oh, okay. And also the idea of another thing that kind of gave me pause about it was accepting money to play video games.
Yeah.
I now know that it makes sense now, but at the time it was like, what? So I thought that doesn't seem right. So maybe I should do it, but do it for charity. And if I end up, if people end up being really generous, maybe I can start releasing music and making short films with what I earn from Twitch. It didn't seem right to because also I was living at home, so I was like, what am I going to spend that kind of money on? Clothes?
Yeah.
So I thought, oh man, I could actually start building my repertoire. So that seemed like a really cool idea. And in the end, it was amazing because we were able to raise quite a lot of money for the Cystic Fibrosis Trust.
Yeah.
And I was able to kickstart music career, which ended up being one of the best things I've ever done. Because before I started releasing music, and actually as I was streaming Xenoblade 2, the first time I started streaming, I was really miserable, and so being able to have this outlet really, really helped in more ways than I think I can describe, and that's really down to you guys and the whole of Twitch community, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the support
I
you
mean,
get
that's-
on there is done out of appreciation, isn't it? So that's...
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's meant a lot to me and Kai. Like we said, we wouldn't be doing this podcast without the said streams and the community, and it's meant a lot to other people. So it's cool to see it's meant a lot to you as well.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, more than I can describe.
I still remember that first stream. I sort of I found out about the day before, funnily enough, from watching you do an interview on YouTube actually, and I
cool.
sort of thought, I'll check in about 30 minutes. This could be fun. Ended up staying the entire 4 hours and every stream after that. So clearly you were doing something right there. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, but so moving on a bit, it was, I think one of the things that was people really loved about it was, of course, your personality and Sam's personality as well being there, which was really cool to see. Alejandro, of course, everyone there, but also just being able to see you experience the world of Xenoblade 2 kind of for the first time. Now obviously, you voiced a major character in the game, so you weren't completely blind, but your first time in the full context of the whole story and the gameplay. So,
Yeah.
in playing that on stream, what was that like? How did the final game compare to perhaps how you'd pictured the game being like when you were voice recording for it? Was there anything that surprised you about the story or the gameplay or anything about it?
I was sort of, I remember marveling at how big it was.
Yeah.
That's Xenoblade
Such
for
a
you.
huge game.
Yes.
And like I was booked for a lot of sessions. Like I knew that the story was quite extensive. And even I wasn't in the whole game. Like there's a large chunk of the game that I'm not a part of.
Yeah.
So I knew that I knew that I was going to be streaming for a long time. But even outside of the story itself, like just what you can explore and collect and just experience, side missions wise, it's just such a massive game. I still don't think that we covered all of it. In the end, I finished the story and I did a lot of the sort of side missions and stuff. Like I did what everyone wanted to see, like the heart to hearts.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I did everything that everyone said they wanted to see. But in the end, I just had to put it down and be like, look, we need to move on. I need to do something else. I've been doing this game for a long time now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Xenoblade 2 fan. I love the game, but I haven't done all the side quests myself.
Yeah.
So it's massive amounts to do there.
Yeah, which is really cool. Like I love the kind of games that just keep giving you more. I think it's great. But yeah, so the size of it was a big surprise.
Yeah, I can imagine that being the case very easily. Of course, this isn't the only game you've played on your streams, though. After that, you did Torna, you took a little bit of a break, and then you came back with, as Kai mentioned earlier, Fire Emblem Three Houses, and you're currently doing Xenoblade 1. So, what has it been like discovering sort of new series and games through your Twitch streams you may not have played otherwise?
It's been cool because I really enjoyed Fire Emblem more than I thought I would. I've still got a list of games that people have been telling me to play. But Fire Emblem, yeah, I really loved it. I loved the combat. I thought that was really, really cool. The whole strategic thing, how you only have a certain amount of steps and sort of getting to know the characters, and it just felt it was a very different game to anything I'd played before, which was really cool. So yeah, I really loved that one, and playing Xenoblade, the definitive Xenoblade, and I'm actually going to get back to it soon. I had to take a break because work just got insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to it soon because Sam's moving back in and he's bringing the PCs with him and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to do that soon. And it's been good. It's been nice to see the sort of origins of what I like and what I think of as my universe. Yeah, it's nice to see where it all came from and what people originally fell in love with. It sort of makes me appreciate Xenoblade 2 more playing the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you playing Xenoblade 1 because that's my personal favourite game of all time. So it's been really nice there. And now that you've sort of become somewhat familiar with the characters in Xenoblade 1, so I've got to ask you one crucial question. What time is it?
It's Ryan time.
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah.
That's good. If you got that wrong, we'd be kicking you off right here now.
Of course. You're now officially...
It took me a long time to work out whether it was Ryan or Rain, and I got so much shit for it.
I mean, to be fair, I think it was the IGN official review that mispronounced a load of names.
IGN, yeah.
Oh, God.
And they're meant to be officially reviewing the game, so I think you can get off quite easily there
Yeah.
with mispronouncing a few times.
Oh, thank God.
Oh man. Alright then. So one sort of final area to look at is we'd be remiss if we didn't talk, if we talked about Skye and didn't talk about Skye's music. So, of course, Skye, you've under the name, is it David St. John Music?
Yep, that's it.
You've made loads of different songs in the last sort of 2 years. You've got Afterlife, Information Age, Dear Ocean, XV, and the most recently released Reckless. So, did you want to tell us a little bit about your music and where people listening can find you?
Oh, I'd love to. So, yeah, I started releasing music in late 2018. I would have done a lot more in 2020 had we not been clapped with a pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've loved it. I started writing music when I was 15, but because of the sort of context of my latest song, Reckless, sort of balancing between doing music and doing acting felt like a bad idea. I mean, I could talk about that another time, but the Reckless came out at 1st of January this year. This music video I'm doing at the end of the week is for another song that isn't out yet, which I actually think is probably the best written song that I'm putting out.
Wow.
I'm really proud of the lyrics. And it's kind of like the Information Age on speed.
Oh wow, I'm looking forward to it then. Information Age is my favourite one from you so far, so that's going to be exciting.
Oh, good. You're really going to like the next one then, I think. It's a similar kind of, it's a similar vibe. It's written about the same sort of thing, but it's a bit more generalised. But yeah, so yeah, that'll be out hopefully at the beginning of spring, but I'm waiting for the master to come back. So yeah, I haven't done that sort of thing yet.
Nice.
Still preparing for it.
Really
But yeah,
looking forward
and
to
I'm on
that.
Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and all that good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really it's always cool to hear you bring out a new song. So I'm looking forward to whatever comes next there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope you like it.
Yeah, but that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. It's been a great time, but before we head off, I have a few the usual thank yous to go through. So first of all, a massive thanks to our graphic designer Sam, who does all of the work on the thumbnails, the logo, and everything. So he does a great job as always. Of course, a big thanks to you, Kai, for talking through with me once again. Been almost a year, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's been good, man. It's been good.
Been great fun. And of course, a huge thank you for you too for joining us for this, Skye. It's been really fun talking with you.
Oh, it's been so much fun talking with you too.
Would you like to remind people of some places they can find you or support your work?
Sure. Well, I'm on Patreon, where I post behind the scenes, demos, just random blogs, updates on the video game stuff, which is over on, I think it's patreon.com/Skye Davis St. John Bennett. But outside of that, I'm like on Instagram and Facebook, and Spotify is a big one. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll of course have links to all of that in the description below if you want to go check it out, and definitely go do it because he makes great music, has great talk and all around. So go have a look if you haven't already, and also if you haven't, play Xenoblade 2, play Dragon.
Oh yeah.
Experience some more of her work because it's all good stuff. But that brings us to the end. So thank you all so much for watching this, and be sure to stay tuned to BunchaJokahs for more monthly Nintendo podcasts, talk and any various announcements that come out in the next few months. And we're also doing our first gameplay series, Playing Through Trine, which has been great fun, even if Kai's a pain to play games with because he just messes with you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And we will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Right. Bye.